Okay, so you are not going to believe this. Seriously, grab a pillow, because this is going to be a long one. My ex-boyfriend, Brad, he's 35, and honestly, sometimes I wonder what I even saw in him. He pulled the most insane stunt. He faked a cancer diagnosis for 6 months. 6 whole months. Just to get my attention and, get this, my money. I know, right? Holy shit. My doctor friend, Sarah, she's the one who uncovered his cruel deception. It's like, who does that? I'm Jessica, I'm 30, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. When Brad and I first met, it was at this pretty normal coffee shop near my office. He was, like, super attentive. Always listening, always complimenting me. He made me feel like I was the most amazing person in the world. And yeah, I like that. Who wouldn't? He was kind of sweet, a bit of a people pleaser, always trying to avoid conflict. I thought, okay, finally a good guy. Turns out too nice was just a front. We moved pretty fast, like we always do, right? My friends, they were always like, Jess, you're jumping in too quick. But whatever, what do they know? I thought I was in love. Or at least I thought I was. The thing about Brad, he always had this way of making me feel guilty if I didn't give him what he wanted. Like, if I wanted to go out with my friends, he'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just sit here alone. I was really looking forward to spending time with you, but if you have other plans. And then I'd feel bad, and I'd cancel my plans. It was just easier that way. And the money? Oh God. From the very beginning, he was always a little bit tight. He'd say things like, oh, my job isn't paying me much right now. Or, I'm saving up for something big. But he'd always expect me to cover dinner, or the movies, or even his half of the rent sometimes. And if I ever brought it up, even gently, he'd get all mopey. Are you saying I'm not providing enough for you, Jess? I'm trying my best. And then I'd end up apologizing to him. It was exhausting. I remember one time, I bought myself a new dress, nothing fancy, just a cute dress. And he looked at me and said, wow, that's a lot of money to spend on clothes when we're trying to save for a future, isn't it? Meanwhile, he was playing video games all day and not really looking for a better job. He always had this public persona, too. When we were out with my friends, he'd be all charming, laughing, telling jokes, acting like the perfect boyfriend. My friends would be like, Jess, he's such a good guy. And I'd just smile and nod. But then we'd get home, and it's like he'd flip a switch. Suddenly, he was tired, disengaged, hard to read. He'd just be on his phone, scrolling, not really listening to anything I said. If I ever tried to talk about something serious, he'd just stare at me blankly or say, you're being dramatic, Jess. It's not that serious. My feelings were always invalidated. And the social media? Oh, that was a whole other thing. He loved to post about our relationship highlights on Facebook. Like perfectly posed pictures of us at the park, or holding hands, with cheesy captions like, so blessed to have this amazing woman in my life. Meanwhile, at home, we'd barely be talking. It was all for show, for validation, for getting those likes. And if I ever tried to post something, anything that wasn't about him, he'd get weird. Who are you trying to impress, Jess? You know I don't like it when you put our business out there. Double standards, much? So, rewind a few months. Things were already, like, super rocky between us. We were arguing all the time, mostly about his lack of effort, his passive-aggressive comments, how he always made me feel like I was crazy for having feelings. He'd say little digs disguised as jokes, like, oh, look at Jess, spending all her money on shoes again instead of saving for our future. It was always something. Then, one morning, he comes to me, all pale and shaky. Jess, he says, his voice barely a whisper. I haven't been feeling well. And he starts telling me about how he's been having these weird pains, these strange symptoms. My heart, it just went into my throat. I mean, holy crap, right? I was scared. What is it, Brad? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He took a deep breath. I think I have cancer. I swear to God, I almost fainted. Cancer? Brad? It was like a movie, but it was happening to me. He started talking about doctor's appointments, tests, all this medical jargon. He even showed me some papers, blurry scans, stuff like that. I didn't understand half of it, but it looked official. He told me it was some rare, aggressive form of cancer, and that it was going to be a long, hard fight. And of course, the big kicker, he didn't have good insurance. So, guess who was going to be paying for all of it? Me, of course. For the next 6 months, my life became a blur of taking care of Brad. He got really good at playing the sick guy. He'd be all weak and tired, saying he was in pain, needing me to do everything for him. He'd say things like, "Oh, I wish I could help with the bills, Jess, but I'm just too sick right now." Or, "I know you want to go out with your friends, but I really need you here. I'm scared." And I fell for it, every single time. I canceled plans with my friends, I stopped going to my gym, I even put off getting a new car because all my money was going towards his treatments. He even started using his illness to shut down any conversation about our problems. Like if I tried to talk about his lack of effort, or how he was always on his phone, he'd get this sad look on his face. "Jess, how can you talk about that when I'm fighting for my life? Don't you care about me?" And then I'd feel like a total monster. Weaponized vulnerability, that's what it was. He was always using his personal trauma, or in this case, his fake trauma, to shut down any conversations he didn't want to have. He was a scorekeeper, always tallying up my supposed mistakes and using them as leverage. "Remember when you forgot to pick up my dry cleaning? And now I'm sick, and you're complaining about me being on my phone?" It was insane. He got really good at the hot and cold behavior, too. One minute he'd be all loving and appreciative, telling me I was his angel, his rock. The next, he'd be distant, cold, barely talking to me. And I'd just be trying to figure out what I did wrong. I was constantly walking on eggshells, trying to keep him happy, trying to make him feel better. I even started posting about his fight on Facebook, sharing his journey, looking for sympathy and support from my friends. My brave warrior, I'd call him. Ugh. The embarrassment. One time, he said he had to go to a special clinic in Dallas for a new experimental treatment. He was gone for 3 days. And when he came back, he looked terrible. "It was rough, Jess," he whispered, barely able to sit up. "But I'm fighting." And I believed him. I really did. I even made him his favorite meal, tried to make him comfortable, waited on him hand and foot. He was so good at making future plans, too, all these promises about what we'd do when he got better. "We'll go on that trip we always dreamed of, Jess. Just you and me. When I beat this." Future faker, that's him. But then, little things started bugging me. Like, he was always too tired to go to his appointments, but he somehow had the energy to play video games for hours. He'd say he was going for chemo, but he'd come back smelling like fast food. And he was always needing more money. "The medication is so expensive, Jess. I don't know what I'd do without you." He even tried to compare me to his ex-girlfriend, saying, "She never would have done this for me. You're so much better." And I'd be like, "Ugh, gross, don't compare me to her." But I still fell for it. I started talking to my friend Sarah. Sarah's a doctor, a really good one. We went to college together, and she's always been super smart, super observant. I didn't tell her everything at first, just little bits, like how tired Brad was, how much money we were spending on his treatments. She'd listen, and she'd ask questions. Really pointed questions. Like, "What kind of cancer is it, Jess? What's his prognosis? What hospital is he being treated at?" And I'd just give her the vague answers Brad had given me. One day, I was talking to Sarah on the phone, and Brad was in the other room, resting. I mentioned something he'd said about a new symptom, something really specific. And Sarah went quiet. "Jess," she said, her voice serious, That's not a symptom of that type of cancer. In fact, it sounds like something else entirely. My stomach dropped. Panic thoughts flooded my brain. What do you mean, Sarah? She told me to bring her all of his medical papers, the scans, everything. I need to look at them, Jess. Something isn't adding up. I was so scared, so nervous. But I finally went through his desk when he was asleep. And that's when I found it. A hidden folder, tucked away under a pile of old magazines. Inside, there were no medical records. Instead, there were photos of him, perfectly healthy, on some beach vacation he supposedly couldn't afford. There were receipts for expensive meals he'd claimed were doctor's appointments. And then I found the really damning stuff, printouts from some weird website about faking illnesses. And the scans he'd shown me? They were stock photos, downloaded from the internet. And those medical papers? They were poorly doctored fakes. He had even tried to recreate official hospital letterheads, but they were so sloppy, so obviously fake once you looked closely. My blood ran cold. That's when it all clicked. The weird symptoms that didn't match, the constant need for money, the vague answers, the excuses, the constant gaslighting about my feelings, the way he'd always avoided talking about specifics. He wasn't sick. He was just a con artist. A total snake. I called Sarah immediately. My voice was shaking. Sarah, I whispered. You were right. He's been faking it. All of it. I told her everything I found. She told me to calmly collect all the evidence and meet her. When I confronted Brad, he tried to deny it at first. Jess, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? You're being dramatic. He tried to play the victim, tried to turn it around on me, make me feel guilty. But I wasn't having it. I showed him the fake papers, the downloaded scans, the receipts. His face went blank. The color drained from his face. How did you? He stammered. I just stared at him, disgusted. You used my deepest fears against me, Brad. You weaponized my insecurities. You're a monster. Sarah then helped me gather even more evidence. She used her doctor connections to confirm that all of the medical records Brad had been showing me were completely fake. We went to the police. And honestly, it was pretty humiliating to explain it all, to admit I had been so stupid, so naive. But I did it. I had to. Because he needed to pay for what he did. The consequences were swift and brutal. Brad was arrested for fraud. It turned out I wasn't his only victim. He'd pulled this scam before, on other women, always faking some illness, always draining their money. His mugshot was plastered all over the local news. Complete social collapse for him. Everyone he knew, everyone he charmed, everyone who had supported him during his cancer fight, they all found out the truth. His family disowned him. His friends, the few he had left, stopped talking to him. He was completely isolated. And his professional life? Gone. Blacklisted. No one was going to hire a con artist who faked cancer for money. He lost everything. He's doing time now. Not a lot, I guess, for what he did, but enough. He's in a state prison in Michigan. I hear he's a pariah in there too. No one wants anything to do with a guy who faked cancer. Karmic justice, I guess. He's experiencing the ultimate isolation, achieving his selfish goals only to discover complete loneliness. He manipulated people's deepest fears and vulnerabilities, and now he's facing the consequences. And me? I'm still dealing with the fallout. Financially, it's a disaster. I drained my savings, went into debt, all to pay for his fake treatments. Emotionally, I'm just numb. I trusted him. I gave him everything. And he just took, and took, and took. I'm bitter, I'm spiteful, and honestly, I don't care anymore about Brad, or his fake illness, or anyone who's not on my side. People like him, they deserve everything they get. He used my money, he used my attention, he used my kindness. He got what he deserved. It's not my fault. I was just trying to be a good girlfriend. I should have seen it coming, but who fakes cancer? Seriously. No one.